Hi, everybody. Tom Van Hoy with this Pitt State cross-country update with PSU men and women's coach Russ Jewett. Pitt State arrived this Saturday after a weekend off following competition in Lawrence at KU. Men finished 6th out of 12 teams there. Austin Bogina 11th overall, while the Pitt State women finished 5th. Hannah DeVries, the top performer for the women's team, a 5th-place finish, and she was named the MIAA Cross-Country Athlete of the Week. Here's Russ Jewett on his team's performances at KU.
Well, we hadn't been to that competition ever. We've been to the course at an earlier date for a competition some years back, but didn't know what to expect. It's a pretty challenging course, and we were very prepared, but we had trained hard that week. I was really pleased with the outcome, to be honest with you. Maybe my expectations were just lower than they should have been, but I think our kids, both the women and the men, did fairly well based on our fitness level at that time.
All right, the women end up 5th, and how about from a competitive standpoint? You always seem to run in these races not only against Division II, but also against Division I foes as well. So does that make a difference at all in your approach to these meets?
Well, we obviously make our kids aware that there are some Division I schools in there, but with us, the division thing we don't talk about a lot. Other than, we get the opportunity to race against some of the very best runners in the country here and there, and this is one of those things. I mean, you're competing against, some Big 12 schools there and a California team, so it was a nice opportunity, yeah.
Does it, when you look at it, okay, say you're a runner for Pittsburgh State, and you look over there and you see somebody from Rice, and you may know who it is. I mean, does that get you motivated occasionally to see maybe how you can do against maybe some of the runners that are higher level than you are?
Well, I hope that it does. It depends on your mindset. If you're someone that relishes in these opportunities to compete against really, really outstanding runners from even Division I, then, yeah, it kind of gets your hackles raised up a little bit, and maybe it gives you a little more edge. And I think most of our kids are that way, and especially for our very best runners. I know Austin Bogina loves to run against as many great runners as he can, and I'm sure Hannah DeVries feels the same way. And this is one of those opportunities they had.
Well, let's start with Austin, and he ran well for you up there.
He did. I was really pleased with Austin. He was very aggressive early in the race, and then fatigue hit, and he slipped just a little bit in terms of a few places, but that was just recovering mentally, really. And then he latched on, and he ended up beating a few people, the last mile. And so I was very pleased with his race.
25-30, that pretty good?
It's pretty good on that course,
right?
Yeah, that's a pretty tough course, and that's about as good as he's raced for us, I think, based on where we were in training. And times are kind of hard to compare because courses are different, but this is a fairly challenging course, and I think that was a really good time for him under the circumstances.
Now, is 8 kilometer? I mean, is that the normal distance that the guys run in the fall?
It is, except for when we get to the regionals and nationals. It's the 10K race, and I'm not sure why we go to 10K from 8K, or it's just always been that way, or why don't we race 10K at the conference level? And before that, there's not a lot of difference in the races. Another mile and a quarter. It's more of a psychological difference. Probably we certainly are training for the 10K the whole year. We just don't race it till the regionals.
How about some of the other men that ran for you at KU? How'd they do?
Well, we've got quite a bit of balance or parity, I guess, on this men's team, and it's kind of back and forth with who's number 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, even all the way down to 7. We've got some pretty good depth and parity. So I liked what I saw from Ren Bean, particularly. He's our sophomore that came in, and he was he wasn't in great shape after the summer, but he worked really hard from the outset, and we've kind of walked the tightrope of working hard, getting in shape versus staying healthy, and we've kind of barely stayed on that tightrope with him, I think. But I was really pleased with the outcome with Ren. He was our number 3 runner in an outstanding race. And Alex Kahn, freshman from Beloit, was our number 2 at this race. He was number 3 for us at the Stampede, Missouri Southern. I think he had an even better race here. He moved up a lot the last mile, and just great race for him.
Have you seen improvement in your men's team?
I have. I really have. Obviously, the training, we're seeing improvement in the things we can measure week to week, which is really the theme for us this year. Just take care of ourselves each week, really each day within a week, and then each week, week by week. And I think we've done that. And again, we're fighting a little bit of injury bug here and there. I don't think anything serious. We've missed some training with a few guys here and there, but that happens when you work really hard, and that's what these kids are doing. So, yes, improvement we have definitely seen.
We're talking about Bogina, who finished 11th, and Pitt State goes 30, 38, 39, 41. You mentioned pretty good parity there. Do you have a group that do they want to run together, or do they each have an individual approach to each race?
Well, we have some race plans, if you will, before the race, before the outset, but tactics are probably equally important. So strategy, meaning the overall plan, you're going to go out really fast and hang on. You're going to lay back and try and beat somebody at the end. But the tactical things, the things that kind of depend on circumstances while you're in the competition, are probably equally important. So, being able to move up the hills really well, hold your own on the ups, and maybe beat people on the downs, those are important too. But these guys don't purposely just stay together necessarily, although pack running can have its advantages. I think we're just pretty equally matched physically in that group there, that from really second all the way to seventh or even eighth. And so, again, we've talked before, Tom, about that's great to have a pack team if they'll push forward. And I think we're getting a little bit of push forward out of these guys now, this pack.
Let me go back to the mental aspect. I mean, physically, you get to a point where you are tired. You are hurting, I guess. And I mean, how difficult is it to push through that? And can you train for that at all, to condition yourself that when you feel like that, to keep going, you have more?
Well, it's pretty simple. It's sort of a battle within yourself. This is discomfort, I guess, pain, discomfort, whatever you want to call it. It's your body's wanting to slow down because you're putting it through some excruciating discomfort when you're pushing yourself hard. And for the guys, especially in a 25 to 27 minute race, there's 20 of that, so you're pretty uncomfortable. And so I sometimes use the hand over the flame sort of a metaphor. You and your opponent, basically, if you're equally matched physically in terms of talent, and it's who can hold their hand over the flame the longest, and who can tolerate that pain, that discomfort the longest, and break away at some point. So, and we do practice for that. We don't put our hand over a flame literally, Tom, but we do practice situations where we're putting them in some discomfort for a long period of time.
You've had some great runners there. What differentiates those that are really good versus others?
Well, certainly talent has something to do with it, but in distance running, probably at least as much as any other event in our sport of track and field and cross country, distance running, probably the work ethic pays off a little more than other events, or at least as much. I don't know if there's any question about that. So you got to have someone that is willing to really work hard and stick with it, because you don't see a lot of freshmen that are great in this sport. It takes a couple of years to develop and then some. And frankly, you can be the toughest kid in the world, and if your body just breaks down when you train a lot or train hard, then it's hard to be really good too, again, unless you have supreme talent. So you have to be somewhat durable. Mentally and physically, are very tough.
Now, is there and you've done this a while, as far as pushing someone hard, can you do it on back-to-back days, or I guess, how do you go about that to develop that particular aspect of it?
Yeah, back-to-back days of really pushing hard are rare. You kind of take the every other day approach, or certainly have to take a little bit of relative rest after you train really hard. But yet these guys run every day and sometimes twice a day. It's just a matter of resting from the really hard stuff or really long effort. Those are things you only do intermittently.
And as far as the women concerned, at Kansas, Hannah DeVries, outstanding 6K run and ended up sixth overall. Pitt State finished as a team number 5. DeVries' time was 22 minutes and 20 seconds, very good for 6K. She was the MIAA Women's Cross Country Athlete of the Week for that performance. And what about the other women that competed for Pitt State at KU?
Well, we were a little thin that weekend. We had a couple of girls with some soreness that I wanted to be really careful with, because we don't have a lot of depth on this team. So we have to be sort of judicious about when we race and who we race. But so we only had 6 girls there that were really raring to go. And I thought Katrin Reinbolt, our freshman, showed a lot of poise and ran really well. And she raced a little different style than she's used to or comfortable with. And so she did what I asked her to do and was very successful doing it. Alex Mose, I think, had an outstanding race, just keeps plugging along, and she gets better every week. Paige Denton, I'm not surprised by Paige anymore. Paige runs very little mileage because she had some serious injuries late high school and then last year, her freshman year for us. So we're very cautious with her. So considering her training, just doing an outstanding job.
Hey, I want to go back to Hannah DeVries for just a moment there, and she also earned the MIAA Cross Country Athlete of the Week, right, for her performance?
Yeah, she did. I'm really happy for her. She beat some pretty darn good runners there, some of them Division I runners, and she's just done a great job in training, and she's one of those kids that really does all the little things right and certainly does all the big, obvious things right, and it's great to see her get some recognition.
Is she getting challenged? I know you and I have talked about this before because you've had outstanding performers that maybe are a little bit better than others and they need to be challenged, but is this a situation where you have to maybe do it by yourself to a certain extent?
Well, sometimes in training. I mean, we still have Jess Macy training with us, and she's got some track and field eligibility left, so Hannah has all she can handle from Jess. And then we do some things in practice sometimes to sort of challenge them more and mix things up. But Hannah responds just great. And once in a while she does have to just be the one to push her own self, and she's able to do that as well.
Is it a little bit different? Because we talked about the schedule before. It's very interesting this year. You really don't run that much. Sometimes you have 2 weeks off. Does that change how you want to approach training?
It does a little bit. Again, this year is one of those fall sports festival years when our championship, our national, regional, and conference are all 2 weeks later than normal. We still start the season training-wise when we normally start it. I just chose not to add more competitions, so we get spread out a little more. The racing is extremely strenuous, and we train very hard, so it takes a certain number of races to be, to get fit enough, specifically fit enough to race really well when it really counts. Really counts at the conference, and so we only race a few times before that. So it does change training a little bit. We just have more really. I guess we have a few training sessions now that are almost race effort. I guess that's the difference.
Have you seen many of the MIAA teams in your competitions this year?
We've seen most of them, but not all of them. And I'm not sure that we'll see all of them before the conference meet. There's just a couple that we probably just will not see, at least in the same race. But we've seen most of them.
Are there some that are pretty good?
Oh yeah. I mean, in the women's side, I think you've got a returning Southwest Baptist team champion that's very good. But I mean, the team right now that's I think head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of what's happened so far is Missouri Southern. They're an excellent team. On the men's side, I'd say Southern is right there. Kearney did really well they surprised me. They did very well at the KU meet, and they're very good too.
What kind of coaching can you do during the course of an 8K, a 4K, or whatever, or a 10K race with your people? Really,
not much at all, Tom. It's a matter of you can give them some verbal cues here and there, but you do all the coaching. 99.9% of the coaching is done before that gun goes off, without question.
Do you position yourself at all during the course of a race?
Oh, sure. Especially now that I can't get around quite as well as I used to 20 years ago. But you try to figure out where they'll need to hear your voice, and you want to evaluate these athletes after the fact so they can learn from it. So you got to position yourself to see them during critical moments if you can. So, I try to do that.
So, now, wait a minute. Has Pitt State given you a golf cart to get around in? If you're
No, not yet. Nope.
Not yet, okay.
Binoculars, maybe. I don't know.
Now, maybe if you win 75 championships right there.
Yeah, well.
Hey, do you feel pretty good about both teams where they are right now? And you've got, tell us a little bit about what you got coming up this weekend. You're going to Raleigh, right?
I feel really good about both teams, primarily because we're getting it done week to week in practice. Got great attitude, both teams. And we may not be the most talented teams in the conference, but I think the heart is there, and really two teams that can make Pittsburgh State proud down the stretch. And all
right, we always ask as we wrap it up, how's that indoor facility looking right now?
Well, it's coming along, Tom. It's on schedule still to be done very early March, and I'm involved almost daily. I'm doing something that is planning-wise for the facility. Every other week got a meeting, and it's exciting to see it go up.
Hey, let me ask you one more question before I let you go, and this involves recruiting because it's like everything else. It's ongoing, and it's a challenge with the number of scholarships that you have. And we've probably had this conversation before, but when you do recruit, do you go out and watch somebody race? You look at the numbers. How do you go about it there at Pitt State?
Certainly, we look at performances. You can look at those on paper, but I like to see athletes and how they look while they're competing. To some extent, what their demeanor is. You can kind of tell some about what kind of teammate they can be, and also what kind of potential they have to improve by watching them perform, compete, and then interact with their teammates. So we get out, a little bit. We can't do a lot of that because sometimes their competitions are at the same time as ours, but we do get out and watch.
Has the contiguous county situation been favorable for cross-country track and field for you?
Well, sure. Without it, we wouldn't have a chance to recruit some of the athletes that we've gotten.
Okay.
Our out-of-state tuition is so exorbitant compared to some other states and their out-of-state tuition that this helps equalize that a little bit.
That's Pitt State men and women's cross-country coach Russ Jewett. Pitt State teams in Raleigh this Saturday. Then the MIAA Championships, November 18 in Bolivar, before the Central Regional in Wayne, Nebraska on November 22nd. The NCAA Championships this year are in Louisville, Kentucky, but not until December the 6th. That's your Pitt State cross-country update for now. I'm Tom Van Hoy.